Rachel Downey.
All our feeds are overflowing with content. Creation barrier, there is none. And what we hear, what we see, is companies asking us, what's next? But here's the catch. More content does not equal more trust. And without trust, nobody's buying from you. And in fact, when you're creating content in a way that doesn't drive value, it's doing the opposite. It's creating noise. And people are having to sift through that noise to figure out what's real, what's coming from somebody that I respect, know, trust, what's recycled and positioned as if it were novel. And through all of that, people are looking for what matters, what's going to impact them. So when we think about content, it's not necessarily about reach. It's about visibility for the people that you want to be in front of and using that to build trust and stand out in a way that creates connection. And that's what I wanted to unpack with Cliff Simon. Not only is he the CEO and founder of Polaris Ops, but he already has a media brand. And he's doing this while building his early stage company because he sees the impact creating meaningful content has in building trust and taking market share. Because for Cliff, having a distinct voice isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. It's what sets you apart. So I had to ask him a simple question. Why should companies build media brands?
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, Rachel. Why should companies be building media brands? Great question. We're living in a time where it's really hard to know what's real, what's not. It's hard to understand who is at the forefront of things and who's just got a really big mouth. And I think with media brands, it gives people a really authentic capability to share stories, to dive deeper into subject matter. And it's not just talking points, like you can actually be substantive with the way that you are addressing different topics or concepts. I also think just given the glut of AI slop that exists, having a strong media brand allows you to have a distinct point of view, a distinct voice in the market. And through that, it allows you to be heard and to be seen in an authentic way, in a way that feels real, as opposed to something that was just generated by AI. So it's a moat of sorts. Right? It allows you to build into brand. It allows you to create brand recognition and to be able to stand out in a sea of sameness. In a world where email is becoming harder and harder, phone calls are still difficult, brand and media mixed with in-person and being able to actually get to know someone, I think is of the utmost importance. I've been talking about this thing for the last few years now. Gosh, probably for the last 5. I was playfully coining it the consumerization of the B2B buying experience, where we all desperately desire to have that B2C, that consumer experience of our everyday lives show up in our B2B worlds. And I think by building a really strong media brand, by being able to be known, not just from a brand perspective, even as an individual, right? People buy from people. We unlock a lot of different components that create lasting memories, lasting impressions, and ultimately help what could be future buyers or referrals or whatever else show up at the door. And all of that comes from being a real person by showing up in the places where your buyers are, being intelligent, asking good questions, giving good content, ultimately adding value. I think ROI on media is hard to quantify in the way that I would typically want to, or I put my CEO brain on, I put my CMO brain on. I want to be able to say $1 out is going to result in this many dollars back in. And I think the difficult part with media is that it's really difficult to be able to get that direct correlation or causation. But as a CEO, when I'm hearing on the backside, running into folks, at dinners or at conferences, or we're a catch-up call, whatever it might be, and the first thing they do is comment on the quality of the content. They comment on something that they were able to learn. You know that it's working. Then when you start hearing that from people that you've never talked to, that you don't have a relationship with, it's like, okay, I'm starting to get those soft signals out from the market that other people are looking at this, because it's so hard to judge just based off of impressions and views. While I understand why bigger numbers are always sexier, I don't necessarily think that those numbers matter quite as much. Is it more important for me to have 10,000 people watch a video, or is it more important for me to have 50 to 100 people engage and watch that video that really find that content meaningful? And because of that content will eventually end up in a buying cycle with us in some way, shape, or form in the future. So that's my hot take. If you have any questions, give me a shout back. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Want your podcast to do more? Subscribe to Genius Cuts because it's never just a podcast. You can find it at shareyourgenius.com.